Hello and welcome. We are talking today about attachment styles and how they affect your relationships, your love relationships especially. I'm Robyn Smith. I'm the owner and the founder of the Healthy Relationships Sisterhood Facebook group and a trauma and relationship coach. And so let's look briefly at attachment theory and attachment styles, and then we'll talk about how that affects us now in our adult relationships. So attachment theory says that how we bonded to our caregivers in the early years, like the first 1 to 3 years of life, affects greatly how we show up in our adult relationships. And so to be brief about that, there's different ways that we can attach, and it's based on how our caregivers treated us. And it even affects, it's related to how we were treated in the womb. But in general, if your caregiver was attentive, if they were showing care and love, if they were showing concern, a desire to tend to you, to try and help you, then you're going to more likely have what's called secure attachment. You're going to have the sense that you are being cared for and things are good, and that you can rely on your caregivers. So there's a security that you get from that. If your caregivers weren't so attentive, if they were neglectful, if they were not present, if even worse, they were abusive, then what happens is you have a sense of insecurity. You get a sense you cannot rely on your caregiver. And what you tend to do is then kind of retreat to protect yourself because you feel like it's not safe. They're not going to help me. I have to pull back and I have to not be needy. I have to not hurt because my needs are not going to get met. And just thirdly, if your caregiver was somewhat inconsistent in their caregiving, maybe they were attentive sometimes and neglectful other times, if they would maybe sort of halfway attend to you and then leave you, then you're more likely to feel a sense of insecurity and anxiety about whether they're available because they're unreliable. They could be, in the second example, they were reliably unavailable, right? But in this third example, they're unreliably available. You don't know, are they going to show up this time? Are they not going to show up? So you tend to feel like more tense and scared about whether you're going to get your needs met. So fast forward to your adult relationships, these patterns tend to carry forward. You tend to if you have an insecurity, you tend to still feel that. You tend to not trust your partner or close friends really care for you. You tend to look for signs that they don't. You tend to be more needy, more grasping, more needing approval that they see you, that they care for you. You need proof and evidence that they want you, that they love you. So the insecurity is driving that, this general insecurity that I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I'm not cared for, will drive this anxiety. And then you'll like project that onto the partner or friend looking for or proof that they don't care for you, or demanding, that they show up in a certain way to prove they care for you. And it just creates a lot of tension in the relationship. So if you're watching me live, put a yes in the comment if you can relate to that. And that's the anxious attachment style. Now, for the avoidant attachment style, that person, like I was saying earlier, tends to retreat. They tend to withdraw because they just feel like, they can't rely on anybody, and they don't really trust that people are there for them, and they want connection, they want intimacy, but they are too scared they're going to be hurt because they were hurt before by being neglected or abused in some way. So the problem comes then off where there's this dynamic that's really common in relationships, where a person who's got more anxiety, more of the anxious attachment style, will draw to them someone who's more in the avoidant style of attachment. And as you can imagine, that creates a lot of tension and drama in the relationship, because the anxious person needs that someone to show up and really care and tend to them and prove their love. And the avoidant person tends to need a lot of space. They tend to withdraw when the tension gets high. And then the anxious person feels more anxious. They tend to then get angry that the person's not tending to them. They tend to get more needy, more attached, more demanding. And then the avoidant person tends to withdraw even more, because they're feeling that anger towards them that's reminding them of their abuse or their neglect, and they feel scared. So hoping that's making sense. I know I'm being quick and brief about this, but what I want to say is that, these patterns can go on, and the problem is it so much seems like it's the other person and what they're doing, that they shouldn't be avoiding you. You're not taking good care of me. You don't tend to me when I'm sick. You don't respond to my texts. You don't listen to me enough when I'm talking to you. You don't give me your eye contact. And for sure, those things, would really help. And that would be nice if everyone would do that. But there's a way that we tend to draw that person to us if we're anxious. And it's hard to explain why, but when we have these unconscious patterns, it's like we're looking for what's familiar, so we can keep playing that out and keep proving our really core belief that I'm not worthy, or that I'm going to get abandoned, that I'm not lovable, that people don't really care for me. And so we'll pick a relationship where we can continue that dynamic. I hope that's making sense. And then for the avoidant person, it's kind of the same thing. If they had someone who was kind of on them, who was criticizing them, who's demanding, who's judging, who's, putting them down all the time as a child, then they might find that in the anxious person when they're an adult, because the anxiously attached partner is often unsatisfied, is often nagging, is often blaming, is often criticizing. You're not doing it right. You're not caring for me enough. You're not taking care of the house enough. You're always at fault. And so the avoidant person then feels that feeling of, here I am getting attacked again, and I just want love, but I'm going to retreat because it doesn't feel good to get attacked. So the dynamic continues until we start to really see that it's not just about the behavior and the patterns of behavior. Those certainly could use some improvement, but what's more important is getting underneath the behavior to the emotions and to the beliefs under the emotions. So when we have a core belief like, I'm not worthy, people don't like me, I'm not good enough, I'm going to get abandoned, then we bring a lot of fear into any relationship, and we bring a lot of tension and anxiety. So when we can name that fear, like there's nothing wrong with having that fear, and there's a real reason that I might have that fear based on my early upbringing. As soon as we can identify that and also have compassion for it, then we're going to relax more, and we're also going to be able to more own our own contribution to the dynamic between us and our partner or friends. We're going to realize, oh, I'm having that feeling again, like I'm going to get abandoned, or you don't love me, or you don't really care for me, or you're going to leave me, or whatever. And so the more we can name what the pattern and name the belief driving it, and the more we can name the emotions that are stirred up by whatever happens in the day-to-day, the more we can start to kind of deconstruct and disconnect the pattern. We can start to break it apart. So let me know if that's making sense. And that's really the gist of it here, is that it's not just about the communication pattern or the communication style. It's also really about those core beliefs and core feelings. And that's why we have to get underneath that. And so when I work with individuals and couples, that's what we're doing. We're peeling off that outer layer and getting to the core of what's going on here, that I keep finding myself feeling this way. I keep in every relationship feeling like people don't really like me, or they're doing it wrong, or they're going to leave me, or looking for approval, or looking for what's that word? Something like approval. I'm not finding it right now, but looking for that affirmation or confirmation that you love me, that you're going to stay with me forevermore, that you're never going to leave me. And of course, no one can give you that. You can't promise till death do us part. You can't promise that you will always love and always be there, because stuff happens and we change and we evolve. But the anxious person wants that promise. They want to know everything's going to be okay, and they want you to make it okay. They want to put that on somebody else, and that's a lot of pressure on somebody else and on a relationship. So ultimately, for the anxious person, if that's you or your partner, what needs to happen is you need to find that security within you, not just from the outside in your relationship, trying to get a commitment, trying to get certain behaviors, but from the inside. I am enough. I am worthy of love. I am lovable. I am likable. I will be okay. Finding that security from the inside. That is key. And then the relationship isn't so tense anymore. That has been part of my journey. I'd say I was somewhat anxiously attached. And what's cool is that we can all learn to get more and more secure and create secure attachments. Thank goodness for that. So for me, what I've noticed in my 20 years now relationship with Patrick, my husband, is that I was more anxious in the beginning. Not so much that he would leave me. I felt more secure in that way, but just anxious about our future, anxious about me being enough, anxious in other friendships, especially. It would show up for me that they didn't really like me, and this insecurity I would have. And so then I would, blame and criticize. And who wants to be around that? Nobody likes blame and criticism, and no one wants their love questioned. And it's okay if you need to question it because you don't trust, but just to know that the important work is not making your partner change, because that's good luck with that. Most people aren't just going to change for you. But the most important work is that inner work, that we work on ourselves. We work on our own insecurities. We start to we work on our self-love and our commitment to ourself, our self-care. There's lots of ways this can show up. I'm not here to give you a full training on that, because that's a much bigger topic, and something that I do work on in my Rock Your Relationship group, which is coming up in the spring. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that, or my private coaching. I'm pretty full on that now, but if you are interested, you should let me know for sure. So that's the gist of what I wanted to share. It's a little nutshell version of how we might get these attachment styles that carry on into adulthood, and how they create drama and arguments and big blow-ups in our relationships when we're blaming the other person for acting a certain way, which is really based on a real kind of core wound that we have, that gets easily triggered when someone maybe gives you a certain kind of look, or has a certain kind of tone, or certain kind of body language, and it triggers something early in you, and you get out of proportion in your reaction, and it seems like it's their fault. So the more we can do our inner work on what this trigger is really about, this core wound, and when we're in a partnership or a friendship that's trusting and open, and we can share those wounds, the more the other person can understand us, and then can want to really meet us there and help us, assure us about their love or their commitment as best they can. But they can also share their core wounds so we can understand them. So the more we each get in touch with what these core wounds are, and these hurt feelings are really about, that are driving the behavior of blaming or criticizing or abandoning or avoiding whatever it is we're doing, the more we can share those wounds, help the other person to see our truth and take responsibility for them and have compassion for them. And the more ease we'll create in our relationships, the more understanding and the more ease and flow we'll have between us, which ends up with more security. Or the other way around, more security leads to that ease and flow. So you've got to work on that inner security first, and not demand it from your partner. Yes to that. So thanks for being with me here tonight. If you are watching live, I'm going to come over and see if you have any questions. And if you're watching on YouTube, please take a moment and follow me on YouTube, subscribe, feel free to leave a comment. And I do have a free gift that I like to offer. It's my how to avoid the 3 biggest relationship mistakes. And it's a lot of what we're talking about here. And I break it down for you, the 3 biggest relationship mistakes. You can get a copy of that. I'll put a link below, and it's at my website, consciousthriving.relationships.com/home. And you'll see the direct way to sign up for that free. It's just a quick little 3-page guide on how to work through some of the biggest relationship mistakes, which we've been touching on here. And then you'll be on my email list. And if you want to stay there, you'll get more tips from me. You'll get tips about upcoming trainings, free trainings that I have coming up, and other guest interviews that I do that are pretty juicy. So thanks for being here, and I love sharing this with you. Please invite friends to watch. If you're in my Facebook group, invite your friends to the Healthy Relationship Sisterhood, or if you're on YouTube with me, go ahead and share the link to my channel, and we'll spread the love and get more people having healthy and thriving relationships. Bye for now, everybody.